Good evening, geometry guys. It's Mr. Lamb, and here is your transformations test key. This will be a series of 4 videos where I go through the 4 different pages. As you can tell, the test is out of 31 total points, and the vast majority of them actually came from page 1. Page 1 is worth a grand total of 20 points. If you used a note card there in the middle, you can see in green, if you used a note card, the highest you could have scored was a 26.35. If you used a page, you could have scored 23.25. And if you went unlimited notes, you could have scored up to a 20.15. As I said in class, I was pretty happy all in all with how we did on this test. So without going too much into detail about the test as a whole, let's jump right in and take a look at some of the problems. Question number 1 and 2 both deal with the coordinates in the image. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to highlight my 2 axes. So my x-axis is right there, and my y-axis is right around there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find the coordinates of each one of the points. So S, this one is pretty easy. S, this point is at 0, 0. T is at -1, is at -2, 2, 3. So that is -2, positive 3. Q is at 1. And then it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then R is 1, 2, 3, 3, -1. So those are my 4 points in the original problem. And to dilate by 5, here for problem number 1, it says dilate each one of them by 5, which means I'm going to take their x and y coordinates and multiply by the number 5. So I'll just go alphabetical. The new Q, well, if the old Q was at 1, 5, I have to multiply both coordinates by 5. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. So my new Q would be at 525. R, it was at 3, -1. So again, I'm multiplying by 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. -1 times 5 is -5. S was at 0, 0. And 0 times 5 is 0 for both coordinates. And for T, it was -2, 3. So -2 times 5 is -10. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 point for each one of the coordinates. So you got a point for each coordinate. All right, as I take a look at question number 2. Question number 2 says that I want to add 2 to my x value and then subtract 5 from my y value. So again, so Q, R, S, T. And I'm actually going to go through and I am going to add 2 to all of my x values. So I'm going to go back to my original points, the ones over here in green. As I'm looking to the right over there in green. So the old Q was at 1, 5. So I am going to add 2 to that x value, and 1 plus 2 is 3. The y value then, I have to subtract 5. So it was 5, and 5 minus 5 is 0. So the new Q is at 3, 0. For R, the old R, the x value was 3, and I need to add 2 to that. 3 plus 2 is 5. The y was -1, and I need to subtract 5 from that. -1 minus 5 is -6. S was 0, 0. So I plug in a 0 and a 0. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 minus 5 is -5. And lastly is T. That was the point -2, 3. So -2 plus 2 is 0. And 3 minus 5 is -2. And again, it's 4 points. That's a point for each one of the values that you find there. All right, questions 3 and 4. They give you an image and they ask you to graph after the following either single transformation in number 3 or two transformations in number 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at number 3, and it says reflect over the x-axis. So I need to know which one is the x-axis. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that one. The x-axis is this line right here. And if I need to flip the points over that line, I'll just do it graphically. So t right now is 1, 2, 3 points above. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 points below that line. And that is my new t. S is right on the line, so S actually does not change places. Right, Q is up here. How far up is that? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And R is 1 point below, so switch to 1 point above. And then I just connect those dots. So I need to connect T to S, S to R, R to Q. And that is worth 4 points. You got 4 points if you have all the points in the right place and you have the figure gone. If you accidentally flipped it over the y-axis, you got 2. So I tried to give half credit. If you made a transformation correctly, you just made the wrong transformation correctly. And then obviously 0 if it was nowhere near a reflection. If you tried to rotate it or translate it or something like that, then there was no credit. So 2 if you reflected it, but you reflected it wrong. And 4 if you reflected it correctly. All right, and for letter B, you have to do 2 different things. So the first thing says it says first. What am I going to do first? I'm going to go right 1 and up 2. So I'm going to take every point. I'm going to go right 1 and up 2. Right 1, up 2. Right 1, up 2. And right 1, up 2. So I move everything, right 1, up 2. Secondly, I have to reflect it across the line x equals 1. So where is the line x equals 1? And this is where a lot of people made a mistake. First of all, if I saw you had the reflection right, I gave you 2 points. If you did reflect it right, or I'm sorry, if you translated it correctly. But now is where I'm running into the biggest problem. I saw a lot of people flip this over the line y equals 1. The line x equals 1 is to the right of the y-axis. So now I have to flip all my points. So Q, I'm up at the top here, Q is 1 to the right, so I'm going to move it 1 to the left. This is Q prime prime. T is 2 to the left, so I'll go 2 to the right. That is T prime prime. S is right on that line, so that is S prime prime. And R is 1, 2, 3 to the right. R is 3 to the right, so I'm going 1, 2, 3 to the left. That is R prime prime. So my final figure is in blue. You'll notice I didn't even connect my green one. Because that was just my intermediate step. So it said first, go right 1 up 2, then second, reflect across the line, x equals 1. Like I said, you got 2 points if I saw that you were doing the right 1 up 2, and then the reflection was the other part. All right, question number 4. Kyle performs a transformation on a triangle. The resulting triangle is similar, but not congruent. Similar, but not congruent. Which transformation did he perform? It is the only one we have to give us similar figures, and that means at some point there was a dilation that was completed. At some point, Kyle had to have done a dilation. If he did a translation, it would have been congruent. If he would have done a reflection, it would have been congruent. If he would have done a rotation, it would have been congruent. But a dilation at some stage would make it similar and not congruent. So that was worth 1 point. And then we have question number 5. Question number 5 says, for the shapes below, if it has line symmetry, sketch all the lines. If it has rotational symmetry, tell the angle and the order. And if it has no symmetry, write the word none. So in part A, B, and C are each worth 1 full point. And it was kind of one of those things that if it had line symmetry and angle, rotational symmetry, and you only gave me one or the other, you will see some half points in here. So 1A, the capital letter P has none. There is no symmetry to that letter P. Letter B has both line and rotational. So let's take care of the line symmetry first. So I can go straight up and down, and left and right, and kind of through the stars, and then also the halfway points. So you had to have all 8 lines of symmetry in there. And then it says if it has rotational symmetry, to tell the angle of rotation in the order, and it does. The order is, if you think about this point, I could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times around. So the order is 8. And the degree is 360 divided by order. So 360 divided by 8 is 45 degrees. And then finally part C, very similar, lines of symmetry, cutting straight down is 1, cutting straight through left to right is 1, and then there's my third. So 3 lines of symmetry. Order, again, if I were to take this point, I could move it, maybe. Alright, I could take this point and I could move it 1, 2, 3 spots around. So my order is 3. And then degree is again 360 divided by order, and 360 divided by 3 is 120 degrees. So you did have to have all things to get the full point, but if you had half of it, if you had the order and degree, or you had the lines of symmetry, if you had one of the two in there, I did give you a half a point. So this first page was worth a grand total of 20 points.